All right, guys, here's a project we have coming together. It's a 72 TE27. This will actually be going to Hawaii. I've posted some short clips of it before in some of the other videos, but now we're getting close to getting it final assembled. So we got the intercooler in, custom intercooler core, and then basically our standard 5S block. Obviously this is a little different rear wheel drive setup. You finally get to see one of these motors in a car. We've done a lot of engine builds and shipped them out, but this is the one that's going to have the external single stage oil pump. So basically just a custom pan holds the oil, and we'll have, there's the oil drain fitting for the turbo, and then we got a number 12 pickup down there on the bottom of the pan. Starter clutch is already in, 8.5 to 1 Trom pistons. It's got Brian Crower rods, and then your ATI front damper. So we had to modify the front cover for this mount for the actual oil pump, so we had to get all that squared away. Got the engine compartment all painted and ready to go. Looks good. Intake manifold. This is actually custom Plenum Creations. Ariel Banco out of Australia built these for us. Helped us out a lot in a lot of projects we've done, and we hope to continue to grow the support for each other and keep collaborating in future projects. So I'm going to show you the cylinder head as well. So this is the head going on the TE27. All the valve train is already in, porting, and has our retainers in there. I don't know if the camera will focus on that, but our spring retainer combo for the first gen setup. This one actually had an EGR port that we had to weld, so we're gonna try and bolt this on now. And we also had to build this little water neck piece to go to the back, because once the head's on, I can't access this water neck. So I gotta contemplate all these things prior to assembly, and that way we don't have to take it all back apart again. But that's it. We're gonna bolt this up, and I'll shoot some more footage once we get this all back on, the header on, turbo, and all that other stuff. Here we go. Heads on. It's got custom age 625 head studs. You can see down there the shiny silver color. So we got all them in. Now it's time to give you guys a better shot of the exhaust ports. I cleaned up all the threads here just to make sure. We got to put studs in it that we don't have any issues once we do all that. And plugged up all the injector holes because we're not using that. All the injectors are going to be on the intake manifold now. And there's our little water neck piece installed. Got a number 12 AN line there. Metal gasket in place. So plan eventually be to cut this off the radiator, top and bottom, and I'm gonna do a number 12 AN coming out of here. It'll go below the intake manifold very as high as we can, that way we don't have a dip in the water line. But yeah, so that's the plan next. I'm gonna get some studs, get the header on, and finish up. All that's already mocked up. Intercooler pipe on that side's done. Intercooler pipe on this side's already done as well. I have to figure out a custom tensioner. Water pump is coming in next too. And also, since we don't use the oil pump anymore, this is just basically a housing for the front seal and to cover whatever would be exposed here on the front. And if we put the timing cover, the plastic timing cover as well. So one of the things I have to do is take this fitting out, because we're not running the oil filter here anymore. Since the oil doesn't come through this hole originally, it would come through that hole with the factory oil pump. So now it comes from out of there, which is the top port of the external oil pump. So I'm gonna run an external filter somewhere. I gotta figure that out. But what I was saying before is I gotta pull this fitting out to cut it, and I'm gonna weld a number 12 AN probably onto this somehow. because that'll be our feed in. This is where the old dipstick used to be. I actually tapped that and put a bolt down in there. So we have another, we had to do basically our own dipstick, so I'll show you that next time. So one of the other things, you have the option sometimes of putting the starter on this side or this side. We normally run the starter on this side, but he actually had this bell housing and the transmission already mounted in the car, so we just went with it that way. I mean, it was easier just to, doesn't really matter as long as it turns the motor the right way is the main thing. But it actually gives us more room here for the header and exhaust, which actually worked out kind of well. So yeah, again, let me know anything else you want to see, comment down below, and part 2 will be when I get the header on. Turbo downpipes already done. We just got to get the rest of the exhaust out the back. It's going to be 3.5 inch, which is really tight to get it through that little section down there. That's where I kind of stopped with the downpipe, but I'm going to have to figure it out and keep it going. So I wanted to show you guys the camshafts. We use our own cams. Basically, they build us a spec cam that we've been using for a very long time. As long as it runs the valve train that we normally use, our lifter, we use basically the same cam setup in all of the combinations, as long as the motor can handle the added RPM. And again, there's nothing crazy about these cams. If you look close, the lift isn't out of this world. It's only 410 lift. Does have some duration in it, but the lift is not what people would think it would be. And this is the same size cam we run in all the drag race stuff and everything else. So we stick with this because we have the spring combination down packed and everything else works real good. So if you look here, this is the lifter, and then if you look here, you'll see where the retainer has the pocket. So we have a shim kit that we sell basically with this retainer and the other lifter, and then from there, which is what I'm going to do next, I'm going to get all the valve adjustments set up. I do that, I like to do it with the head on the motor. I did check it prior just to make sure we had enough clearance to get it all done, but I'm going to do that on the motor since the head's torqued and get all the valve adjustments set up. So I'm checking the valve clearance, so that's the next thing I'm going to do. I'm trying to get all the valve adjustments set up right. You can see here I got 2 lifters in there, so I'm working on getting all the valve lash correct. This is everything that we use to get all that. So this is the shim kit that we sell. You can see I have everything's numbered here for the intake side we're working on. Now I'm working on the exhaust side, getting that all finalized, and just trying to get all the valve adjustment right. So next step, we will, once we get all this done, cam gears on, lower crank gear I need to get for, we're going to try and use coil packs on this setup. It'll be one of the first ones we do. And so we have a crank gear that will have the crank trigger pickup right here, along with the crank gear that has the actual teeth built in it already for this crank trigger setup. So that's going to be next as well. And then, like I told you guys before, plumb the radiator, get all this stuff figured out. I'm going to show you the header and turbo we're going to use, and then we'll end up bolting that up in the next video. So here's the header I already built for this setup. Pretty much an equal length style setup. Garrett turbocharger that's going in this build. Never used this turbo before. It's the G35. It's their new G series that they came out with. Supposedly this thing's good for 900 horsepower. I guess we'll see. Pretty cool. They come with a stainless turbine housing now, V-band of course, and see what this thing can really produce. I'm super excited to see what this thing can make as far as power. Looks small, you don't think it would make that kind of power, but I guess we will see what it can do. This is going to be a street car, so I don't know how much we're really going to push it and get a better idea of what the car can actually take as far as power. So with the header, you can see we built a merge collector in there, just to try and get this thing, you know, the best kind of flow we possibly could. It's going to have a 45mm turbo smart wastegate. Here is the downpipe I already started working on. This thing is going to be tight. That's going to be tricky to get this. These cars don't have a lot of space to get this big pipe in there, but we're going to try and do the best we can, and hopefully we can squeeze it through the steering column setup. So again, here's the turbo. I'm going to give you guys what the biggest difference with the G series is the turbine wheel. So what Garrett did here, as far as what I've seen, is they went to a 9-blade turbine wheel. So you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Most of the turbos nowadays are all 10-blade, and back in the day they were 11-blade. And I'm sure there's changes as far as height and things like that, but if you compare this to any other turbo, you'll see the separation here in the gap, basically to give the turbine wheel more flow. Same thing as going bigger, just a different way of doing it. So yeah, it's going to be real cool to see how this thing really spools, and see what kind of power it makes early on once we start putting boost to it and low boost. And then you got Garrett's famous, you know, multi-wheel that they always use compared to everybody else that uses like a 6-blade or 7-blade. They use this style compressor wheel. So yeah, should be cool. It's going to be different on a little motor like this. So we'll see how it turns out, and you guys will get all the real live world feedback to see what it can really do. We got this cool little project coming together. Good buddy of ours, 3S, same style intake manifold, custom plenum creations, Ariel, our 3S, 5S block. This one's actually going to have a Beams oil pump, oil pan setup, but we modified that as well. And we're working on the cage, getting a funny car cage in there, the X bar here, getting it all ready to race. So stay tuned for this as well.